My father didn't even wait for the soil on my grandfather's grave to settle before he unleashed his cruelty. "You'll get nothing," he sneered, fingers digging into my shoulder as though he owned me too. "Your brother will inherit after me. You're worthless." I stayed silent, just watched him, the smug grin on his face, the champagne glass dangling from his other hand, the hollow clink of celebration filling the air while the scent of lilies and fresh earth still lingered around us. My grandfather's memory was still warm, but my father was already intoxicated with victory. And then my mother appeared, quiet, steady, her presence sliced through the noise. She slipped an envelope into my hand, leaned close, and whispered, "It's time they know who you really are." That whisper carried the weight of years. I used to believe my father's shadow was inescapable. He was the kind of man who controlled a room without a word. His silence commanded, his voice dictated. And me? I was a shame he never forgave himself for. My brother was his golden child, his pride, his chosen heir. He wore my father's approval like a crown, raised to believe the world was already his. I was a forgotten one, the son whose questions were brushed aside, whose victories were diminished, whose existence was tolerated at best. But my grandfather had always seen me. He taught me patience, strategy, restraint. He never had to say it aloud. I could see in his eyes that he trusted me with something my father never could, vision. So when my grandfather died and Noel appeared, I knew it wasn't by chance. My father had buried more than a man. He had buried the truth. The signs were subtle at first. Documents missing from my grandfather's study. A lawyer who suddenly stopped answering my calls. My father's eyes gleaming too brightly whenever he spoke about inheritance. And then came my mother's return, the woman my father had discarded years earlier, as though she were a mistake to erase. She laid the envelope on my desk the night after the funeral. Inside were photographs, signatures, and one undeniable truth. I was not who I had always believed. The man I called father had known for years. My brother, and I didn't share the same blood. I wasn't his son. I was my grandfather's chosen heir. My very existence had been smothered beneath forged papers and falsified records. The betrayal wasn't simply that my father dismissed me. He had tried to erase me. But I didn't confront him. Not right away. Noise is wasted energy. Rage accomplishes nothing. I chose silence, calculation, the very lessons my grandfather had drilled into me in the garden while trimming roses, reminding me patience was the sharpest blade of all. Step by step, I began. The lawyer who had vanished? I found him. He wasn't missing. He'd been bought. But fear outweighs money. When I revealed what I carried in that envelope, his face went pale. He unlocked the vault my father had tried to seal. Half of what my father called his empire, the land, the accounts, the estate, wasn't his claim. My grandfather had arranged everything years earlier, ensuring the truth could never be denied once revealed. The rightful heir was me. Still, I didn't rush. Timing mattered. I wanted my father to savor his illusion, to believe he'd secured his throne. Before I pulled it out from beneath him, the moment came at a family gathering. The house glowed like a cathedral, chandeliers scattering gold across polished floors. My father sat at the head of the table, my brother to his right, both brimming with the certainty of power. I waited until glasses were raised. My father began his toast, words like legacy and bloodline dripping from his tongue like poisoned honey. That's when I stood. I slid the envelope across the table. "Before you finish that toast," I said evenly, "you should read this." His smile faltered. He opened it. With every page, the color drained from his face. My brother leaned in, his confusion shifting into disbelief. My mother's gaze never wavered. "You were right," I told him, my voice calm, deliberate. "Your son will inherit, just not the one you chose." The silence was sharp enough to cut. My father's hands trembled. My brother whispered, "No, this can't be real." But it was. Every seal, every signature, every truth my father had buried, laid bare, undeniable. The fallout was instant. The board members who once bowed to him turned their eyes to me. The lawyer, now back at my side, confirmed every word. Within weeks, The estate was legally mine. Of course my father fought. Courtrooms, threats, desperate phone calls. But the louder he screamed, the smaller he became. My brother, stripped of his future, turned his rage on him. Their bond shattered under betrayal's weight. And my mother, the woman who had stayed silent for years, finally stood tall. She had guarded the truth until the moment I was ready. I didn't take everything from him. That would have been too merciful.